Welcome to the Purpose Mastermind podcast. I'm here with my dad, Mark Delaney, purpose and family expert who helps people experience true freedom and have a really purposeful life. And I'm here as a guest today to help my dad. I want him to react to a video that I found. I think many people are seeking freedom, but run into a lot of frustration on that process. And I found a video I stumbled across where this celebrity, Bill Burr, a really famous comedian as well as an actor, he talks a little bit about his personal experience with counseling and what I guess you could more broadly speak of counseling culture and where that's landed him. I do want to give a disclaimer since I happen to work with some professional counselors myself at my university, and they're phenomenal. They do great work. But that's not everyone's experience of either professional counselors specifically or counsel culture in general. And I think this video is very telling. I think Bill Burr does what many comedians do. They say what everyone's thinking, but no one's willing to say. And I think this is a perfect launch pad.
Grandpas also do that.
Yeah, yes, they do. Yes, they do. My dad's very good at doing that, especially now he's become a grandpa,
Yes.
even more than usual. I think this video would be a perfect launching pad for us to dive into a discussion. And I'm just kind of here to set you up. And so whether you're listening on podcast or watching on YouTube, I think the audio will be great for everyone. So I'm going to just play this video, very short clip. This clip is on the Your Mom's House podcast. If you really want to go and check it out, I did find a short where it bleeps out all of the cursing though, and so that's what we're going to play. So let's just go ahead and play this short clip and then chat. See your response.
Do you ever seen a shrink before?
Therapy. Yeah, I went to therapy.
You went, but you stopped going.
Well, after a while, it's just like, well, I've told all the bad stories, and I'm always going to have problems. This is just becoming like this, lifelong car payment now to have to come over here. Be like, well, this happened.
Yeah.
My garage door was locked. When are you going to just, get off this couch here and go live your life and stop having to talk to this person?
Yeah, you're full of anger. Because
No.
you flog yourself for being vulnerable.
Would you stop it like you have
Yeah.
some sort of
I
psychology
do.
degree?
10 years in therapy. It's
So what?
helped.
I've watched
with
football
anger.
for 40 years. I shouldn't be somebody's coach.
I agree.
Yeah. Then you're
I-
going to superimpose your issues of the psychos in your life onto me. It's like alcoholics. They just
Yeah.
always like, oh, yeah,
you're
you
drinking,
need,
yeah.
you drink. You must be like me.
Yeah.
The whole world, because they're addicts. So
Yeah.
they're so self-involved. The whole world has to be like them.
Yes, I agree. I'm so glad you're here to
Let's
put
see.
Christine in her place.
Do you ever?
Okay, so there's the video. Short, but a lot to react to. What's your initial reaction to this?
Wow. He touched on being vulnerable. Today I was talking to a man and I was talking about vulnerability. And I said, what do you think vulnerability is? And he was like, well, that's when you go and you tell people your problems and you're vulnerable, and then they judge you for it until you die. And I was like, yeah, a lot of people do feel that way, that when you're vulnerable, you get judged. And so here, what do I think? I think that everyone needs to tell their story. Everyone needs to tell their story, but the context of where you tell it really matters. Um, I think everyone needs some kind of therapy. I just think we have to understand what real therapy is. Therapy is simply something that helps you live your life more fully. It helps get you redirected back to the life you're made for. Sometimes the best therapy is doing something fun with friends. We make therapy be this magical thing that happens in a conversation in a room with someone who has degrees in counseling, and that is part of it. That can be a place where it takes place, but some of the best therapy happens in common places with common people having common conversations. So I think therapy has kind of gotten hijacked, and it's been turned into things that isn't always as helpful. I heard someone recently say, boy, I'm so glad that person's going to therapy and they're going to go see this person. And I was like, but I know that person. And although that counselor is well intentioned, I know their life, and I know that they're not capable of helping this person with this problem they have. I have a lot of thoughts on therapy. I want everyone to have therapy. I just want people to have good therapy. Um, I agree with much of what the comedian said here. Probably for most people, our biggest hang up is not the problems we have, it's the lack of purpose that we have. It's the focus on our problems that causes really a bigger hang up for people. When he says, "Hey, I'm gonna have problems," like, what is this? Is this a new car payment I have? Like, everyone's gonna have problems. And going back to the vulnerability thought, vulnerability is not going into public and telling people all of your problems. Vulnerability is about boldly living your life even while you have problems. Sometimes what happens with therapy is it helps us to become more focused on our problems, which is actually maybe our biggest problem itself. What do you think?
Well, I think one of the ideas you've talked about quite a bit that is so helpful is the idea that one of the best ways to navigate our own problems is to follow our purpose regardless.
Yeah.
There might be some really extreme scenarios where, someone's in a really intense spot and they need like, a short period of time, something, a little more isolated from, not engaging in, outside things. But
Yeah.
aside from that, like we can get so self-absorbed. Like we can live our life as if we're walking with selfie mode on our camera right in front of us or walking with a mirror in front of us
Yes.
all day. And we
Yeah.
kind of feel like my problem is everything and I can't move on until my problem is fixed. And this has to become my identity. And
Yeah.
some people don't realize that one of the best ways to get over our problems is to get over ourself and to simply live a life of purpose to help other people. Some of the best times of my life, whenever, I'm just feeling down or feeling like out of it, is I just need to go help someone.
Yeah.
Like I remember in college, having a rough Saturday night, and I'm like, oh man, I'm signed up to volunteer at church the next morning. And I feel like just not doing anything, but I need to get up and go volunteer. I need to go help some 5-year-olds play with Legos.
Yeah.
Like there's something that's so therapeutic about
Yeah.
actually engaging in purposeful activities to help other people. And it's amazing. It feels like there's no correlation, but I think there has to be a direct correlation to that idea. Otherwise, you can wallow in your own misery, and whatever you focus on, whatever you put your attention to grows. And
Yeah.
so there's a point where the more you put attention on your problem, it allows it to mutate. So there's a fine line between good self-awareness, not being delusional and acknowledging when I have weaknesses and problems. There's a fine line between that versus making it my identity and becoming, weirdly selfish and self-centered.
Yeah, weird. I like how you said that. Weird. I'm trying to say it
Yeah,
weirdly,
weirdly.
selfish and self-absorbed. We all think it's wrong to go about our day focused on, wow, look how good I look good in this. Look how good I look in this outfit. Look at this amazing car I'm driving. We all think that's self-absorbed. But what if me thinking about my problem is basically the same impact? If I'm thinking about how good I look or how successful I am, I'm not thinking about other people. I am self absorbed. So if I am thinking about my problems, I am also being self absorbed. Now, I think people would probably say, well, that's why you need therapy. So you won't be so self absorbed because you're so focused. This problem has become so big that you have to be self absorbed. I think if a problem becomes so big that we are self-absorbed, I think it's all the more important that we have a purpose that's bigger than our problem.
Mm.
Because frankly, I agree with you. The more that we dwell on our problems, the bigger they get. I wish that wasn't true. I wish I could tell people, hey, this problem you have, like, it's real. Like, that's legit. You faced major trauma, someone really hurt you, like my heart is just like, oh wow, what a thing they're facing. And I wish I could just say, just go to this program and this kind of therapy, and they're going to help you overcome that. I got to be honest with you, because I'm a grandpa and I must be honest always. Once you have a grandchild, you lose the ability to not be honest. I just don't see that working very often. What I do see throughout the history of mankind is that when people have a purpose that's bigger than their problems, it's amazing the fulfilling life they can live in spite of their problems.
Mm-hmm.
But when we elevate our problem really becomes not that we have a problem, but that we're focusing on the problem. And sometimes therapy helps us focus on the problem.
Yeah. And I think what's also practical in this conversation is how many people are watching or listening to this that are not professional counselors, but we play a role in people's lives. And if
Mm,
we're not careful, we can make everything not only about our problem, we can also make the other people around us, we can make it feel like their life is all about their problems. Maybe to
mm,
give an analogy, I think, many parents without realizing it can make their kids feel like their grades is all that matters in school. Because if you think about it, whatever you ask about and whatever you follow up on, that is how you tell people this is what I care about,
uh,
right? And so if all you ask about is what your kids' grades are, or the only times you show interest in their schooling, it has to do with their grades, you're telling them that's what I care about. And I think what happens often is, at least I've seen in certain circles, is you have friendships that amongst people, let's say friends, right? But this can be, of course, with family or otherwise. And you're generally not super deep. Okay. Like you have fun together, you have activities you like to do with these people. And then at some point the relationship gets deeper. But some people, the deeper part they go to is having a vulnerable moment of, here, there's something I'm struggling with.
yeah,
And that becomes the new deepest moment of that relationship, where you're the most personal, the most vulnerable. And how we handle that's really important. And I think what some people decide is the only way to respond to that is, I want to be a kind listener to their problem, right? But now I just want to help them just be accountable by asking them, how are you doing with that problem? How are you doing with that problem? Are you
mm,
still doing that? And I think it can be really well
yeah,
intended. Now, some people are judgmental in a way that's frankly very unhelpful. But I think without realizing it, how can we go deep in relationships by, instead of just always asking people, hey, just checking in again, how are you doing with that problem? What if we added a huge component to relationships primarily by asking, hey, how are you doing with your purpose?
mm,
How are you doing with your purpose? And I know you have groups where, you'll get together with men, and the point of the meeting is to, eat great food and ask each other, you know, how are you doing with your purpose? And have everyone get to share
yeah,
how they feel they're engaging in that.
yeah,
And to me, it's a very different picture, because I think when we are so problem centered, it's pulling our car off to the side of the road to do a diagnostic.
yeah,
And sometimes it is helpful. But when you're talking about how you're doing with your purpose, we're all cruising down the road together and spurring each other on in that.
this is not an anti-counseling conversation. This is just an honest conversation. Ultimately, can human beings be fixed? Usually, going to counseling involves probably two categories. One is overcoming your past. Well, has anyone ever unwound their past? Have we ever fixed our past? Well, you can't fix your past. You do need to face your past, don't get me wrong. And the other category of common counseling is like just problems you have, marriage problems, addictions, depression. Well, the goal of fixing your problems sounds right, but what if you can't really fix your problem when you focus on it? What if instead you leave your problem when you focus on your purpose instead? I really don't have a lot of hope, Matthew, that human beings can be fixed. I have tremendous hope and belief that people can be free. That's why I spent 4 years of my life writing the book, One Step to Freedom, because freedom is the answer and freedom is available to people. And so that's why I'm passionate and talking about this, because my heart goes out to people that really have an issue in their life that has them stuck. My heart goes out to them because people who are trying to overcome past trauma or current problems, behaviors, these are people who have a big heart for the world. Otherwise, they would just say, well, who cares? My past is messed up. I have these problems. Who cares? Let's eat, drink, and be merry until we die. People who want to deal with this stuff usually have a massive heart to live a life that makes a difference. So I want these people like that to get help that really helps. And so let me give this picture of what I think sometimes happens with common therapy. Let's just look at this room I'm in right here. Let's say that this room I'm in represents my life. And over here, this window in front of me represents my future that I'm heading towards. And let's say that football back there represents the hobbies that I have. And on this screen is one of my sons representing my family. And over here on this wall is a picture that represents the work that I do. My life is full of opportunity, but let's say that somewhere over here on the floor in front of me, there's an object on the floor. And let's say I trip on it. But let's add one more component to this simple illustration. Let's say the room is pitch black. And it's so dark, and every day I trip on that object, and every day it just bothers me. I think about it more every day. When's it going to happen today? And I focus on when it's going to happen, and then it happens at some point. And that thing on the floor represents my problem. It's the behavior problem I have. It's the addiction I have, or maybe it's that thing on the floor represents when am I going to be triggered again because of my past. So common therapy might sound something like this. You go into the office and they ask you, so tell me what your issue is. Well, I'm tripping on this thing on the floor. Every day I trip on it. And maybe the therapist might say, well, what time of day do you trip on it? How often do you trip on it? How many years has it been that you've tripped on this? What does the object feel like? When you trip on it, does the object move? Do you hit your foot or your ankle or your shin? Do you fall? Do you have injuries when you fall? The questions could go on and on and on, and each question could be discussed for months. We could spend 10 years in therapy talking about the object on the floor that I trip on. There's one thing that I think first needs to happen with people in that situation. And that is that whoever is closest to the light switch needs to flip it and turn the light on. Because with the light on, I'm like, oh, there's my window, there's my future. That football, my hobbies. Oh, my son on the screen. Oh, the work that I do. Like my whole life is still here. It's full of opportunity that I can pursue and focus on. And then with the light on, I can look on the floor and be like, oh, it's just that thing that I've been terrified about. I can move that over to the corner. It'll totally be out of the way. And so I just think that common therapy can help us work hard at fixing ourselves. The danger is it causes us to focus on ourselves, and focusing on ourselves is our enemy number one.
Some powerful points there. Powerful points. And I think this resonates with a lot of people. Again, Bill Burr, I think he's saying things that many people have thought. But the good news is that there is a way forward. There is a way forward to live a life of purpose and meaning and joy in spite of the problems that we may face.
Totally.
And that's what it really excites me about the mission that you and mom have been doing the last few years that you started. I love hearing the stories, how people everywhere, all kinds of backgrounds, everyone from kids in school to men in prison and everyone in between,
Yeah.
that real people can experience real freedom and pursue a real purpose. So
There's
I would
no
highly
doubt.
encourage anyone to engage with the content, whether you want to listen to more podcast episodes, check out my dad's book, or try to get a part of one of the groups where they work through Purpose Mastermind curriculum. Any of these things would be great next steps to experiencing true freedom and purpose. And again, I'll give a shout out. Love the university I work at. Have some great counseling professors who really do emphasize a holistic care that's not just overemphasized on the problem. But people should also realize that this isn't, freedom and purpose is not put behind a paywall, though. There's a
Mm,
place for the experts, for sure, but also to assume that only on the other side of this big paywall, and I'm using that term metaphorically speaking, right? This idea
yeah.
that there's just this huge mountain to climb. My dad has always said, you're one conversation away.
Yeah.
One conversation, you never know. One conversation. And, and it can come from the most unexpected of places. It can come from an amazing talk with a friend. I know my dad has done Purpose Masterminds secretly with people while playing Frisbee golf. They didn't even know it, right? You're just, all they think is we're doing Frisbee golf. Before you know it, they're experiencing freedom. So anyway,
There's one
Dad,
one
go ahead.
conversation. One conversation can change a human being's life. This is the
Absolutely.
great news. The great news is, I think the therapy that people most need in their life, I think common people can do it everywhere. Common people everywhere. I was at a meeting today at a luncheon, and there were leaders sitting around tables having conversation. And this one lady at our table, she opened up and shared about something, a facet in her leadership. And she kind of pulled back the curtains a little bit and shared some personal stuff about herself. And she shared for just a little bit. And then I looked at her and I said, and I didn't know her, but I said, "Can I tell you what's wrong with you?" And she just looked at me and she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Nothing. You're a human being doing good things with your life. The problems you have are good. The problems you have are normal. There's nothing wrong with you. These problems you're talking about are common human problems. And this kind of common therapy can be done by common people literally everywhere. And this is what most excites me. Most men that I talk to, the story of their life is that before they ever knew their calling, they found their kryptonite. And when they found their kryptonite, they began to judge themselves and be ashamed of themselves. And then as they grew into an adult, maybe other people also judged them for their kryptonite. But no one has ever told them that Superman had kryptonite as well.
Mm.
And no
Hmm.
one has ever told the man that,
Yep.
yes, you have this kryptonite in your life. Yes, it can destroy you. But did you know that there's a calling waiting for you?
Yep.
And this
It's
is the
good.
message that I want to declare to everybody, that yes, you have weakness. Yes, you have problems. Yes, you have a past. Yes, you have kryptonite, but you also have a calling.
Yeah.
And what if you chase that calling even while you have kryptonite? I wonder what could happen.
That's a perfect note to end on. Very inspiring. Thanks for reacting to this Bill Burr video, Dad. Who would have thunk it? A comedian video leading us to talking about purpose.
Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Mark Delaney, my son Matthew. Let me remind you of this one thought: your life has a purpose. You can know that purpose, and you can be set free from anything that's holding you back from living it out boldly. Now go take on the day.